continuing right on from where we left off, we have take-alongs, and there's a lot to say about take-alongs. But firstly, I did not have nearly as many listed as I thought I did. I thought I was missing one or two listed. Those ones at the back, I don't have listed. The only one of these I know that definitely wasn't was that Oliver. But I think I remember why these weren't listed, and I'll get to that. Well, I think I know why some of them. These two aren't listed for no reason. I don't know why. So this is a bit more haphazard than the Erdls, because there's a lot to talk about. But I figured the best way to split it into is the longs, the big ones, and the shorts. And we'll start off with the longs. So, when I started selling take-alongs, it was because I bought a huge lot. I happened to be the first person who mentioned... It actually was a real lot of convenience. I happened to be the first person who sent a message to the guy. I happened to have the $1,000 he was asking for the entire thing at the time because I just bought a car and had some extra money left over from the loan. He just happened to be in the same state as me, and I just happened to have a bit of free time. And he just happened to want to meet me halfway. So I met in a small town called Crow's Nest. Excellent place to have a drink, by the way. They've got amazing soft drinks. And we basically... I got there. It was $900. And basically, we did the deal. It was kind of obscene the amount of stuff I got for $900 because I had a vague idea what I was getting in the pictures. But there was far more than what met the eye. In fact, covering my screen to protect my privacy, there was that as well. He threw in an entire Duplo set, brand new. There was also some other stuff which I will not show you, but later. Long story short, it was huge. It had some Erdls. I ended up keeping most of the Erdls because they were all blue boxes. And yeah, it was a lot. And I think from memory, about 120 take-alongs. And what you see here, with the exception of a few characters, is what's left after, literally, it's been a year. In fact, I filmed a video at the time you never saw because I decided not to talk about it too much. That was me going through the lot. Probably have the information somewhere. I could probably dig it out. But long story short, I listed them all, and now I get to tell you the tale. And I think what's important to mention is what's sold quick and what's not sold. So quick, from my memory, was every single metallic. All the metallics were gone within a month, I'm pretty sure. Maybe not Thomas, maybe not Percy, maybe not Toby. Those three might have taken a little bit longer, but they were gone quick. The Henry was gone within a day. And in retrospect, I should have sold the Henry for more. But, on the same token, I sold the Henry. It's kind of the mentality of, I sold it for what I was asking, and I can't complain about it after the fact. And I think that's a good mentality to have. It's like, oh, well, but sometimes things happen, and some of these things are just out of your hands. And I wasn't unhappy with the $60 I got for it. I was not really knowledgeable on take-along collecting then. But, like I said, I sold it. People would have charged $200 maybe for him, and they'd still have him. That's sort of the other way to look at it. And that's half my mentality, is charging a fair price that someone will actually pay. People like Rainica, who I know I name drop them a lot, they tend to charge what they want. And I think what you want needs to be balanced with what's reasonable. And this lot of what's left is a perfect example of that. The metallics, I never sold them for more than 60. The Henry was the highest. I know that Greg Fine, who people lambasted for it, or whatever that term is, for trying to charge 200, and he still has his after a few months. And that's just because take-along collecting is not as... I don't want to say refined, and I don't want to say any of those real, pretentious words. It's more like the clientele who buys take-along are very different, and that's just because they tend to be younger. They tend to want to get back into Thomas collecting, and this is a pretty affordable way to do it. And I will admit that some people charge way too much for these. And we're going to talk about characters and we're going to talk about prices now, that I think are really fair. And again, negotiation techniques like the Erdl video. There's a lot more to actually say here about the take-alongs because there's a fair bit more range. Firstly, let's talk about box condition. Box condition generally tends to be very mixed, like Erdl. Probably less towards the higher end. Really nice conditioned ones, you just don't see them as often. And this is actually a reflection. I mean, some of the nicest ones here are the Bill and Ben box, and even then it's got wear there, which, I mean, you would expect. I mean, going back to the Erdls, the way that their hooks are designed basically limits the amount of wear that they can have on a shelf. Contrast that with the take-alongs, we've got this sort of U, you can imagine that there's going to be a lot of wear here. So finding them without that wear is a little bit more challenging. Again, it all depends how much you really care about condition. Now, condition, though, should dictate the price a lot more on take-alongs than on Erdls. Take-alongs out of box are basically worthless. People are trying to push them up and up and up, and, like, I get that, okay? At the moment, I've not got a lot of it loose take-alongs because they really are just not worth it. I ended up listing a few just to sort of test the waters at $5, which, to be clear, with $5 plus postage at 16, then you've got to, well, postage at 11, which I think I'm even losing a little bit on post. Sorry, no, I'm not. See, I upped my postage cost recently because Australia Post keeps upping and upping, and it's slowly gone from costing $8.88 with my discounts to $9.33. And with the cost of boxes at about $1.50, $1.60, I could not justify keeping the price at $10. And you'll notice that, I think, as we go forward, a lot of people are raising their prices. And I think 10's slowly becoming what 9 was. 9 was about the norm. 10's now basically what the norm is for a lot of people. And that's just because the other thing is, I ship in boxes. My policy with all of this is to box it. That's why my postage cost tends to be that bit higher, because boxes are $1.60. Hence why I was losing money. And now that I've got really cheap stuff going up, I do plan to list more take-alongs. I basically list on a basis of, do I have more than one? If I do, the worst one gets taken one picture of, and that's it. Loose take-alongs, I will say, generally, I put very minimal effort into, because they're not really worth anything, so just get rid of them. Some are worth a little bit more, typically the deluxe play scenes. When I bought this lot, there were 6 deluxe play scenes. And I'm going to tell you something about deluxe play scenes that you will not expect. They do not sell well. Not at all. I had 6, 4 of which were in 2-packs. The 2-packs were the bane of my existence. They were hard to store, and generally people don't want to. They want to be able to buy one. Now, the other thing is, I could see everyone else was being able to sell just one for about 200 to 300 Australian. Maybe a bit less sometimes, maybe a bit more, depending on the depending on the play scene. I was struggling to sell the 2 for $2.50 towards the end. I had them listed additionally at $500, which was a very ambitious price, and I did not really intend to sell them. I didn't think they would. It was more a publicity stunt. And that's the other thing. Sometimes you have this catchy item to list up that's mainly just going to sit there and not really going to do anything. On the same day, though, I really wanted to get rid of these. The other 2 play scenes, which I think was a Gordon and a Thomas, I sold the Gordon pretty quickly at 100. I think it might have been at 75 in a lot. And the Thomas was very similar, about 75. This took a while. I was surprised. I thought they would have been really quick sellers. Not really. I think the market for them isn't quite at what the prices will say. And definitely not tailored towards the more cheapy ones, or the more common ones. I think your Diesels and your Emily Shaw, they're going up. The other ones, I think, are stagnating. People tend to be able to find them. And honestly, if I was you, just buy them loose. If you can buy a complete loose one, you're getting half the thing. And the DVDs are barely worth it. I have some lying around. Usually if they're loose, they're thrashed, but what does it matter? Yeah, you just want to watch the episodes, watch them online. I've had a couple I took down because I have the DVDs I'm going to list with them, but just as non-functional. They're going to be the same price as just normal, but I have them. The 2-packs, though, I think took about a year to shift both of them, and I think actually someone bought one online. And weirdly, I think he ended up separating the 2-pack. Which, I mean, do what you will. I just thought it was a bit odd. Then again, I guess I sold it for about $200, so $100 for each is not bad. If you bought the other 2-pack, you've got one of one at the moment, because we don't know if any more exist. Okay, I've talked a lot for about 10 minutes, literally 10 minutes, and I haven't really said anything, so let's get started. So, I'm just going to quickly check my battery. I've got enough. Alright. The cheapest take-alongs I have up right now, boxed, are this Jack Jumps In movie car and these two Salties. Now, the Jack Jumps In was part of the lot. In fact, I had a few. I think I've had 3 of these in total. The Salties weren't. These were actually bought at a Toy World for about $4 or $5. I've had them up for 15, and no one wants them. Which is not surprising. Salty, I would say, is probably the least desirable of the main engines. He is everywhere. He is not worth anything. I have them loose for 5, in just in okay condition. I think the picture has a really poor one. I think I have 4 or so listed, 4 or 5 listed under that picture. What's annoying is, despite that being the poorest one, the other 4 are, like, good. Some of them are near mint. It's just, I doubt anyone would even buy a fucking Salty from me anyway. For 5. Because, just give them away for free. Fucking... That's the thing with loose take-alongs. I mean, they're basically worthless, and I think that they should really stay that way for a bit. I think these shorking up a bit. I think loose take-alongs, if they were to just settle at 10, I think that's fine. And some people try to charge more on, like, Facebook. Just charge 5. Or 4. You're not going to be rich off them anyway. And in lots, just throw in 100 for, like, $50. At the end of the day, I'm barely interested at that, and I mean, there's not really a profit. Back to my initial thing, and then we'll get on to talk about this. Sorry. At $5 a take-along with $16, with combined $16 with postage, once you subtract the 15% out of that from eBay's cut, subtract the postage again, I make it about $2.50. Maybe more like $2 to $4.50. Basically nothing. If you buy them in bulk, it works out better because obviously I don't have to keep getting attacked. So I tend to be able to... Basically, if you buy in bulk of take-along loose, I'd probably give them to you for 4 because I would have lost that anyway. So, and that's also another... Sorry, quick tangent. Another good point, I would say, always give people a better deal if they buy in bulk because then you don't have to pay fees on the postage constantly. If someone bought 3 items from me, 3 people bought 3 items from me, I get the fees deducted from the postage as well as the postage cost as well as the item cost. So I get 15, 15, 15 attacked on them. And basically, if they're all one person buying them, that's 15% on $11 once, not 3 times, which means you lose less money. So I always incentivize bulk deals. I'll give you a much better discount because hell, I don't have to worry about shipping off like 64 different boxes. All right. So those are at 15. They're the only ones. There's slight box damage on these. These are the longer boxed take-alongs, which don't seem to command much higher of a price, nor do people really want them much more. I'd say if they were originals, 02, 03, you don't see them as much. These are 04s. I don't know if they have a code. No codes. They are earlier 04s. But still, they got some damage to the boxes. No. Now we move on to the 20, which the 20, I think, the 2025 used to be the bulk of what my prices were, especially for your generics. And you can still see some of the generics here. You got your log loaders, smelters cars, no one wants them. Your generic rolling stock. No one really wants these. They are everywhere on eBay. People are charging up the arse. I have these at 20. I got these 20? These are all 20, I think. They haven't moved. I mean, those ones over there would be about 20, 25 as well. Basically, they are just worthless. Same sort of deal over here. These are your 20s, 25s. I think that's the only 20. But that should really be reduced, honestly. 25, 25, 25. These are only 25 because... Is this the long box? That's the long box. That's kind of cool. That's just an alright neck. Oh yeah, just an alright neck. Now, moving on to... We quickly ramp up from there because... Again, a lot of the 20, 25, and even the 30s, they're gone. They're just gone. So what's left... In fact, actually, funny enough, one character that's not here that I had 3 of was Hector. And over the course of the year, I sold 3 for around 30, 25, 30 each. Hector was actually just okay. I mean, you'd think more? No, he was just okay. In fact, one character I just realized isn't here either was Whiff. Do I have another Whiff? I thought I had one more Whiff. Uh-oh. I think I have a Whiff listed, but I don't have one here. As long as no one buys that Whiff in the next 2 hours or the next 30 minutes, I'll be alright. Maybe? Hold up. Just occurred to me something important. Did I? Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Sorry. If you don't know, Flying Scots Films, he actually bought some of these off me. So there's some of his in a box over there. I need to double check that I took them down. But yes, I don't make that mistake often, but when I do, it's always annoying. So your 30s, you got Byron, you've got Mighty Max. Mighty Max probably too high. Byron's whatever, really. Into your 40s, I think I had 2 Mr. Percival's cards. I think I might have sold one to Dax. Again, these probably need to be reduced to probably... These all sort of need to probably be reduced to the 30 bracket. I think this one actually was expensive, though, because it was... Yeah. Now, this is the one thing I'll say that might change. I'm trying to at least push it a bit because it is interesting and they are rarer, is the 2009 take-alongs. They did not make these for very long. They are quite rare. The way I sort of go off that rarity is I have a lot of character cards for take-alongs. Okay. And what I'll say is that you do not see 09 cards. 08s, 07s, 06s, very common. 09s, I have like 2. So, 09s, I think if someone would do a full 09 collection, that would be really cool, because these are very obscure and very rare. That'd probably be the only one I'd keep at 40, just because if you know, you know. If you don't, you don't. And I mean, it's one of those things where it's kind of interesting. Thumper is my only $40 take-along, but the long boxes. It's a bit worn. I don't know why. I think I just priced him high because it's Thumper. I think it's just kind of fucking weird. He's kind of a cool character. So, something I'd probably keep at 40. Not that I think I'd sell him for that. I think I'd accept an offer at 30. But, it's an interesting one. Moving up to the other, these are also $40, I should mention, which is your 3-packs. These probably will get reduced to 30 soon. And I'll probably add in those Percy ones at the back. Ooh, mess. Just because basically no one wants them. I think I sold 1, which I think was a salty one. And that's it. Very undesirable. Very much people don't want them. Just forget about it. Moving on from that, we have the $50 ones, which there are only 5 of, I believe. Yes. So we have Patrick, Toad, this Stepney, which is a Toad factory error, which I'll point these out. I've had a few of these. In fact, I have this one as well as, if we go over here again, over to the Taken Plays, not to spoil this much. I have this one that's a Thomas with a Stanley. But what's important to note about these, and in fact I denoted it on the listing for it as well, is that these are not as interesting as they seem. Well, it depends. The box is a Stepney box. The code Stepney, it's got Stepney in it, all the information matches, it's just someone put a Toad card in. Now, if the box was a Toad box, that I think would be worth exponentially more. I have this priced at 50, which is not actually a bad price for a Toad. Although Toad I think might come down a bit. But yeah, 50 is about. I have them priced at 50, but I'm not really sure if there's a market for them. And in the year that I've had them up, people don't really seem to care. Bill and Ben, those two surprised me. I would have thought they would have been gone by now. $50, which is pretty reasonable for Bill and Ben. In fact, I just sold a loose pair for 25. I didn't even know I had it up for 25. Probably would have accepted 20. Anyway, negotiate, people. This box is not bad. In fact, I said it was earlier. It's pretty alright. $50, which seemed fair. Again, not a common item. No one wanted it, and I honestly am surprised by that. Another character that surprised me was, and he isn't listed at the moment, was Oliver. Now, Oliver is extremely extremely expensive in America. Holy shit, he's expensive. I think 50 Australian loose was last time I checked. He might have come down a bit. I had one up for, I think, 125 with a toad. And it sat there for a long time. And I was a bit shocked by that. Seems like people who want take-along Oliver want him loose. Not really boxed. Hence, yeah, it took a long time to sell. I think it was Australian who ended up buying, not even American. I am tempted to do that again with the toad I have over there. But yeah, I haven't listed them up yet. I think I bought them for 25-30. Figured I'd list them up for about 50-60. See what happens by himself, because now I'm curious if I didn't have it with the toad, it'd be more desirable. And that's basically it. There are a couple more characters I should mention that I haven't got listed, but that's because I'm on the fence about keeping them. That is the James Goes Buzz Buzz and the Fuel Car and Tar Tanker. I love the Fuel Car and Tar Tanker, and I really am tempted to keep it. I only ever keep 2002 yeared box take-alongs and properly coated and all that crap. But they're tempting, and they're heavy. They're really quite dense. The James, same deal. I had that as a kid, and I'm very tempted, even though it's not really something I collect usually. So what can I say generally? Well, I think what's important here is the stuff that's not here, not actually the stuff that is here. But what I will say is that in the year that I've had to sell the amount, I don't actually know how many there are, probably about 20 or 30 left. Just a quick count, 1, 2. There's 35 left. Okay? Of the 120 I said. So in a year I ended up selling about 90. We'll say about 90. And you can really tell the ones then that people don't want, because there was a fairly big range. You had your Thomases, your Henry? So that was the thing. There were a few characters I didn't get, which was Henry, James, I don't think it was an Edward, a Gordon. In fact, there was a fairly limited range of the main cast, which I'd say are by far the most valuable take-alongs. If it's a main cast member, especially Donald Douglas, I said Henry, you're going to get a lot more than if it's a secondary cast member. But even then, there's no steadfast rule here. I mean, Bill and Ben I consider relatively main cast, and they're not sold. Ladies relatively high, but then again, ladies $50, but then again, that's about what they're at. But if you look at actual characters here, the only ones really recognizable are Bill and Ben, Oliver, who, like I said, wasn't listed, Salty, but again, their own reasons, and that is it. The rest are your sort of your B characters, your C characters, and then rolling stock and generic shit. Which I would say, if you were offered a take-along lot for about, because I ended up paying about $6 a piece when I bought these. If you were offered a take-along lot with about $10 a piece, and it was mostly this stuff, I'd say just avoid it. It was mostly characters, sure. I mean, even then, the BC characters, I think they'll be gone in about a year. And when I priced Whiff fairly aggressively, because I had 3, he did sell quick. I mean, I think I sold one every couple of months. Anyway, this video is long as shit, damn. But there was a lot to say about take-alongs. I mean, in fact, we'll quickly, because why not, we'll quickly tag on the taken plays, because there's not really anything to say here. I didn't get much in the lot. I ended up getting, I think, maybe 20 in total. The only ones left are your very generics. You got this Thomas, which, like I said, was very expensive. Isabella, who I don't think is that expensive, but no one really wants. Patrick Hero, which surprised me, but also no one really wants. I'm not sure if those were all listed, so we won't count them. But that's really it when it comes to taken plays. There was 20 in the lot, and I sold them all relatively quickly because they were all just cheap. There was also a couple of sets. I didn't actually mention this in the Erdl video because it didn't really warrant it, but there was also this Take and Play Knapford Station, which I've still got up. Again, it's cheap. Well, not cheap, actually. That was a bit more expensive. But we'll see. Anyway, that's Take and Play, because like I said, there's barely anything to say. This will be the last video I filmed tonight for this. I might film some Wooden Railway ones later. And there's a lot to be said about loose, because new is something I don't get in often. if ever, really. I am trying to acquire a lot. Well, we'll talk about that if I do get it. But if not, well, that's that. I'd say definitely, as a final closing note, if you're a buyer, it's a buyer's market sometimes. Right now, not really. Again, you want these, get them cheap. $10, $15, done. I wouldn't be fucking around. Maybe 20 tops, which is what I've got most of these listed at. If you really want it, I wouldn't be fucking around. Like, seriously, I'd be fucking around, sorry. Just fucking low ball, low ball. Again, any other generic stuff, low ball, low ball. Characters, you're going to have a harder time because obviously you're competing with parents and whatnot. Not low ball, but most characters 25. Some obviously a bit more. I'd say your main cast, of which, yeah, these are the only two left. Some of them you might be able to get a low ball out of someone. Like, I'd probably take 35 on this Bill and Ben right now if you send me an offer. The Olivers, again, I tend to hold out on them. Your Thomas, your Percy, your Toby, I sold them for 10 to 15. And look, people want a lot, but 10 to 15 really is all you're going to get. Maybe 20 if you had an earlier one. Maybe more if you had a very early one. Your Jameses, your Edwards, 50. Probably about 50. I think I sold a couple for about 35. But even then, like, your Henrys, you do not see them. And I would not be remiss for saying 50 to 70 on your Henrys and your Gordons. No. Not easy to get. Yeah. Well, that's all I have time for anyway. Thank you all for watching. I didn't say this in the last video, but any questions, feel free to leave a comment. I will try to respond to all of them. I am a collector and a seller in Australia, so my knowledge is mainly Australian based. Take-along prices, though, tend to be a relatively global consensus that they're not worth a ton, except in the UK for some reason. It's a bit more valuable there. So there is actually a fair bit of fluidity in there, but there's a lot of crossover between America and Australian prices. So if you have any questions, they're probably going to apply to both. But that's all. Next will be Wooden Railway. There's a lot less to say about Wooden Railway. So thank you for watching, and bye for now.